Hello there, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to this little intelligence briefing, as I'm calling it anyway. That's what we're gonna call it. Um, let me just organize my little thing here on the channel, and I will start this. Okay, we're gonna do this. We're doing this live here, so that's why I want to make sure that we have everything set up properly for what I'm going to talk to you about. Okay. So, what's been going on? Hi everyone. All right. Thank you again for watching this. And again, what I'd like to remind you of is that this is an intelligence briefing to the general public. I think that in the modern, ever-evolving world, I think this is something that needs to be done. I think that intelligence is something that is lacking in the average person, and not because people um, don't want to be smart. I think it's just that education is a real problem, and I think that those who are intelligent in the wrong places may have some sort of effect on this. However, that's a different intelligence briefing, perhaps for a different time. Let's discuss what has been happening with the text that you see on your screen. Obviously, that's what we're discussing today. Why are so many cars blowing up? And why is it at Walmart? Like, why are cars blowing up at Walmart? Why is this happening? Why this place? Why not? Why do we see such an escalation? And let me tell you again, this is an intelligence briefing, so please consider all of the facts and follow it as best that you can, okay? So let's just start with the fact that, again, like I already said, the average person is realized on the internet now to be sort of uneducated. And this is just generally accepted. It's not just me, it's a lot of people that accept this. And you have to realize that when you go on social media and you go on the internet in general, you sort of wear this on your sleeve with what you do, what you say, and stuff like that. And right now, the ever-growing and expanding problem is that we have all kinds of secret war, guerrilla warfare going on, and AI warfare as well. And so that is enveloped around this too. Okay, so let's dive into why this could actually be happening more specifically at Walmart and to certain people. Okay. Basically, what's happening around the world is you have a lot of government organizations trying to get to the United States and trying to commit acts of terror and just trying to cripple us financially so that they can become the next United States of America. This has always been the agenda of basically like any terror. Basically, they think that they're just going to recreate, whatever it is that we did through hard work and fighting for rights and freedoms and stuff like that, through all of the stuff that we went through here, where we had to have those things, those civil wars and things like that, to understand why we don't do that anymore and why we have a civilized democracy and things like that. So they don't get that. Oftentimes they're manipulated, they grow up and they're lied to in a world where everybody's lying, cheating, and stealing. You and I here in America, we really don't do that, right? Like, we really don't do that. Like, we're brought up to try to be as best as that we can, and we really do. Most of us do those things. We see ourselves, like at any given time in any situation. Oftentimes, as somebody like that might defend themselves, or something like that. But oftentimes, we're not people that seek out. We're not taught that. It's a free thinking sort of society, and that's what you need to realize is that a lot of countries around the world are not this way. They are not allowed free thinking. Their news and actually their police actually do something about this. So like even if you were to visit like let's say North Korea, for example, you would find that the people there are often told not to look at you and stuff like that. And part of the reason for that is because a lot of the time they would immediately realize and want to know where you're from and ask all kinds of questions because you appear to be healthier, you appear to be very wealthy, and you have like evolved, in the sense that you're not like you're not thin, you're not like frail and stuff like that. Your skin's probably a better color or something like that. Like there's just something very noticeable about you that's different from them. You get what I'm saying, where maybe you're visiting a part where like there's some impoverished people versus another part. And this also would be something too that they would restrict. They would only allow you to visit certain areas that are for tourists and stuff like that, specifically so that you can't record this and know how bad it is. So anyway, let's translate what that means is as far as intelligence and why our intelligence organizations and stuff like that, we know instantly because there's billions of people in that part of the world that think that way, why that's such a danger. Because again, it's billions, like half the world versus a very smaller percentage, if that makes sense. So you have to understand that when that amount of people outnumber you, when things become digital, when you enter a digital age, everything is reversed now. Now it's not, it's no longer, okay, the cool fights you see online where it's like 10 Iron Man versus like 100,000 barbarians. Let's say that. Do you think that the 10 Iron Men, or like, let's say even one, we'll say one, would win against 10,000 barbarians? Yeah, he would just fly up into the sky and shoot them all. Okay, like you get what I'm saying. So yes, the point is, there's always a smarter way. There's always, like, it doesn't matter if you are outnumbered. There is always intelligence. So this should be your weapon: education. Now, this has been our weapon to a certain degree. We've birthed but also welcomed immigrants that were extremely just genius people that helped us figure things out. And some of them were Jewish. And like, this is the point, like, these people are really smart. And they were oppressed because of it. That's the point. It's just in their DNA almost. So instead of making that mistake again, embrace intelligence. Don't become scared of it just because somebody wants to warn you and they have a little bit of, more of an understanding of that thing. You want to embrace that. You want to welcome it and then consider it. Like, don't always just blindly follow it either, for sure. But consider that and consider why that person might say that. So now, with all of that being said, let's fast forward to why there's so many cars exploding at the same store, and again, why we have that, what we have in parentheses there. So these folks all overseas, a lot of them, they have to become smart sort of on their own. And when you become smart, like the internet has a lot of things on it where, like, yeah, you could just learn anything you want pretty much. And now with AI, it translates it for them. That was always the problem. The language barrier, I think, was a big issue, and now it isn't. So consider that piece of information too. So what we have is, let's say we have a bunch of engineers. Like, remember, guys, I always told you guys that with politics, you can't take a smart person with politics, like calling somebody a certain way, like your intelligence, we all know the word and stuff like that. You can't take that a certain way because they feel if you are denying like a fact or something like that, not accepting a temporary loss to your side about what they're saying and proving is right or wrong about that situation, and you're actually just like denying it while presenting something that's not fact. You're trying to just making something up. That person's just gonna kind of feel like, wow, that they know they're wrong and they're just like kind of making stuff up. So that's why they feel that way, and that's why it oftentimes ends up getting personal, and you can't do this. Again, how many of them are using social media and stuff and waiting for you to argue about that and then use it, against the person that's necessarily educated and knows it's coming, but the one that is actually creating lies just to excuse their candidate or something like that. So when you have too many people doing this and they're wearing it on their sleeve and they're out in public with it, this becomes something where any sort of organization that exists in the digital realm where there's too much people wearing this on their sleeve and showing it to the rest of the world, they're going to use that. Because again, it's there's always like a controversy, and there always will be because there's a truth to it. So anytime you do that, the truth side is always going to push back, and the reason for that is they'll honestly push back because that is the truth. They will always, like, the world will crumble to nothing. There will always be somebody pushing for truth, just to make sure it. You get what I'm saying? You will never. It'll all explode before the. You know what I mean? So there will never be. It will always be pushback, and so. You recognize that as like that thing you're taught where good always wins and stuff like that. That's what that means. That's actually what that means. So I just wanted to put that out there a little bit, but let's relate this to what's actually happening here now. Okay, you guys are familiar with cloud seeding, and you're familiar with. I'm sure you guys have heard this, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with identity theft and stealing credentials like logins and stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, I realize I mentioned both of those things together just now. They are related, and I'm going to tell you why. So, the Chinese government, as well as our own, is cloud seeding. And the Chinese government's doing it a lot. Now, we know that Donald Trump is somebody, it doesn't matter what political spectrum you fall under, you know that he is somebody that is opposed to regulation. It doesn't matter what side you fall on, you do know this. Like, this is a fact. He won't even deny this. And he has removed EPA regulations, the Environmental Protection Agency. He has removed certain things that could protect the environment and protect against the things that would be detectable, that they could do something about and fund and do something. So you deregulate this. Let's say all while deregulating this, the Chinese government's aware that you're doing that, and like they have some drones over here or something like that. Now what they can do is they can start using that to experiment with cloud seeding here, experiment with certain things that would cause, like, let's say you have power lines or you have something that's like constantly drawing power or something like that. you can sit there and you can experiment with that because, again, that thing is drawing power. So, like, there's something there to learn from. So I'm just trying to break this down as simply as I can here. So now let's say you have a store where, like, a ton of people go in the store. Okay, and, like, you can look up how many people walk in and out of that store each day, and how it's difficult to maintain a, you know, like, a security situation, because, again, like, it's just, there's so many people. Like, everybody knows this. I think even, like, police have become aware of certain convenience stores and stuff like that they have to frequent because there's a lot of crime going on there and stuff. So like, you get what I'm saying? Like, if you get what I'm following there, this goes right in line with other things, except now the common world and the common guerrilla warfare tactic will use things that you excuse as everyday things to mask crime. And so, like, they'll use things that you would excuse as, like, oh, well, it's a blown transformer, it's a recall, it's this, it's that. Let's just fix it and move on. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you have car after car after car after car after car in this one area just exploding and bursting into flames in Walmart parking lots. And suddenly you're like, oh shit, I guess we should have listened to that guy. So let me just explain a little bit, okay? And nobody's stupid. You're not. Nobody's stupid. Okay? Like nobody is. Okay? Like, I get it. You know, like, how ridiculous does it sound, right? So let's explain a little bit about this. If they have your data and you're constantly in your car and you're being listened to, like, we know they can listen a little bit. So, like, let's say they can do this, and let's say, like, you got your Bluetooth on and you're connecting it to your device or whatever, yada yada yada. Let's say they're trying to reach into your life in ways that would, like, make you anxious or maybe happy. Basically, they've studied you to know how you react, and maybe even using AI to do it. But they know how your mannerisms are and what you do in your car, what you do when you go to work. They have those cameras, they're tracking them, and basically what they can do is they can use, like, let's say your car is a recall, let's say your car has this or that, to use that device to get you, essentially, like, they're going to exacerbate something, they're going to show you something, they're going to get a video to pop up, or they're going to call you a bunch of times from a scam number, or whatever it is that ticks you off, you know, like pushes your button. Maybe they'll start swerving around behind you, or they'll trigger somebody else that they know is on the same road as you to start having some sort of issue with you. Maybe he's listening to the radio, and just right then, they'll, like, trigger something to get the person to hear a report about how people are brake checking people. And I'm in front of him, and I'm driving slow, so now he's mad. You know, you get what I'm saying. Whatever it is that causes these people to be triggered. And so, therefore, they're on their way to Walmart, and they know this. They're like, yes, okay, they've determined they are, in fact, on their way there. And like, they're not in the car. Nobody's in the car when it happens, right? So basically, you know, this is what we're talking about, where maybe somebody's has their damn air conditioner on full blast, and this person knows this. This person knows that person can't remember to just turn their air conditioner off before turning their car off, or whatever it is. Whatever recall or whatever thing that you're saying draws too much power, causes that spark and the mistake. So now all it becomes is about manipulating the person, the technician, whose data they also have, to think this person's an asshole, to hate this person, to be really irritated with this person, and now this person won't do things they're supposed to do. And let's say they'll let go, like, you know, like some sort of corrosion on the battery terminals or something like that, where they know this could cause a fire and would harm that person, and secretly to themselves they're thinking, ha ha ha, good. Basically, all they're doing is determining who's evil, manipulating that person, and then other people around this person, with the data, with the personal data, and then causing a real life situation to make it seem like it's legitimate. Except now all they're doing is using the excuse that they know that the police got a lot going on. They're going to show up, really quickly determine this, be dismissive, leave, and now they're going to crash the 911 call center so that way they're busy trying to deal with that instead of answering calls quickly and effectively like they could. And so now they're going to see what happens with that. When they crash that, they're going to figure out what delays you, exactly what happens. They're sitting and watching. They are watching and they are figuring out what you do when that goes down. And they are analyzing it like under a freaking AI computer microscope. Like, this thing can learn everything. It's got your traffic cameras, you have a body cam, you have things in your vehicle that track where you are, your police vehicle is tracked through your police precinct, you all know it. And again, if they have your data, they're doing it through your data, so the police secure network won't detect that. So therefore you're like, ha ha ha, I'm at the police station, it's fine. No. If you are breached, so is the station. If you are breached, if you got hacked at your home and you didn't say anything, yada, 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 it's not your fault. I'm not blaming you, but your station is hacked. And if you think it's not, I'm sorry, I hate to tell you, that's how it works. It is that simple these days. We saw during the Trump administration, and this isn't necessarily something I blame Trump for, but we saw during the Trump administration a federal agent get hacked at his home because Kaspersky was a Russian-based virus protection software, and one of the top. Except a federal agent got breached at his home. Now there's reason for that, and that's Russian-based. So yeah, the Trump administration rightfully said that's banned in the U.S. now, and I agree with that. However, why is this Trump? Why did I put that? Let's back up. And I actually don't think it's his fault. Let me just say that. I don't think it's his fault. We'll say that, okay? Let's back up. George Bush was president during 9/11. And Bill Clinton was president before him, okay? It is very common to... I don't know why the AI seems to think this. However, everybody around here knows, and everybody I talked to and paid attention to during the election, and we talked about this too, absolutely nobody thought Al Gore was going to... Like, nobody. No, Al Gore is a terrible candidate. I love Al Gore. He had a... He's a good guy, but he's a terrible... nobody believed he was going to... And so anyway, everybody knew George Bush was going to win. Everybody knew that he was the successor for Bill Clinton. His iPod got hacked. The World Trade Center had planes flown into it. They were counting on this guy having little to no experience in intelligence and making foolish mistakes. He invaded Iraq for no reason whatsoever. And then they covered up, they believe they had No. He mistakenly invaded Iraq because we had inside men that informed him improperly, and the U.S. government's covering that up. And I'm not saying that lightly. I'm saying that because I truly believe that as I analyze the situation, that's what they're doing to protect Bush. And I understand that. I get that. But at this point, stop. At this point, the truth needs to be out because people need to be aware of the danger that I hate to say it, the Republicans, because again, it's them. It's the fact that they just make a decision without an intelligent sort of rational discussion about it. Like they're the ones that aren't being bipartisan, where we have examples of Democrats and independents. And independents. Like, I'm not just saying Democrats, too. Like, and some other Republicans. Like, like John McCain and stuff like that. Rest in peace. But this is the point. And so let's fast forward a little bit. Let's start fast, like moving forward a little bit. So, we don't take care of Osama bin Laden. Basically, he is allowed to continue building Al-Qaeda, and they become one of our greatest threats, who, arguably is doing things to benefit other, sort of communist or dictatorship-like regimes in that part of the world, where, they're just trying to... It's very obvious that these people just have a problem. Like they're serial killers. You get what I'm saying. Like Osama bin Laden, like people like that, they're psychopaths. Like this guy was trained by the CIA. He was supposed to be a good guy, and instead, all he did was use it to harm people. And like that's a psychopath. So, like that's the point. You need to rationalize. We didn't do anything about that, and why. And then why Bush didn't, and then again, after the fact, finally Obama took care of the thing. But now we come full circle, and it's almost like we're pretending like Al-Qaeda doesn't have huge presence in like Africa and in India and in Yemen and like everywhere all around the world. Like Al-Qaeda has presence so many places. Sort of like we did, until Trump started backing out of NATO. So you see what this is what I wanted to kind of like give you guys a little bit is some intelligence on why we have a presence, why we like that's... I'm sure with all this logic you can rationally deduce, yeah, that makes sense why you would want those presents, because if all that's going on, you need to know what they're doing, and the only way to do that is by having a presence, because, again, they're so good at hiding. Like, again, the CIA trained these guys. Bin Laden just passed that on. He was their leader. So why is this Trump's fault? And again, because he is unknowingly doing things that, yes, are good for his base, but cause deregulation and cause cloud seeding to have consequences where now more storms, more individualized, isolated storms are being caused in certain areas. And this is absolutely massively skyrocketing the, the moisture. And like, like just like when you do that constantly with the weather, you get all this moisture and heat all of a sudden. And so like when we're talking about cars and we're talking about things that you want to mistakenly draw too much power or something like that, and you're constantly creating an environment over and over and over and over and over where like, yeah, there's just all these people, all these cars coming in, and not only that, again, now we have storms and stuff all around this. It doesn't happen when it's storming, it happens on the dry days, right? Yeah. And then so conveniently, the day after the storm or something like that, you see some device or something that was drawing too much power suddenly burst into flames or explode, yada, yada, yada. So you get the point. Like, the point is regulation is good because it prevents people from doing things that they wouldn't understand because they don't have that knowledge. Like not everybody expects everybody to be an electrical engineer. So you wouldn't necessarily have the knowledge if there was a little bit of corrosion on something, that this corrosion would cause that connection to maintain even though you shut it off. So even police don't necessarily know this. Like I'll be honest with you, I don't necessarily expect them to understand how direct current works. So, like, yeah, like if alternating current's different. Direct current, yeah, direct, like alternating current. You have a ground that shit, it can be shut off. It has a some sort of a breaker or something. Direct current, that is direct current, man. So, you have corrosion on there a little bit. You shut something off while it's hot, warm, dry, maybe moist. Maybe a moist environment too. That helps with the catalyst of electricity. But the point is, if you know about something else that has a spark or is mistakenly doing that, and you do that enough times and you cause that, you know what I'm saying? Where you have expertly sat here and found out that maybe this guy again is being lazy about this on purpose, and he's talking with his buddies about it and he thinks it's real funny or something like that. And meanwhile, somebody's just tracking this, and you get what I'm saying. Like, it's gotten out of hand where if like the pranking and stuff like that, where like all of a sudden, just because some people like did some pranks and stuff, now the next thing that happens, somebody is unalived, or like it's not a prank, like they call it a prank but it's really not, it's like something nasty. That's somebody using what somebody else did that was arguably a little bit too over the top, and then just absolutely taking it there. And so this is why I say we see too many examples of this happening in social media, where it's not a pattern that you can ignore anymore. It's no longer a pattern that any intelligent person can ignore. And the reason it's Trump is because Trump is doing things like Bush, where he's accepting entire planes from Qatar, right? Yeah, so he's mad at Boeing for not finishing his plane because they want to do it right and make sure it's safe. Let's all be honest, Boeing has a huge history of recalls and problems with planes. I remember their planes are like crashing and stuff like that, right? So they want to do it right. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, instead of doing that, takes a plane as a gift from Qatar, which is a war crime. You can't do, I don't know, war crime, is that the right word? It's a felony. I think it's a felony. And there have been, that war crime wasn't the right term, felony. There have been, I think, members of Congress that have been convicted and sentenced for accepting gifts from other countries. So you see where this all seems on purpose. You see where basically we have the example of somebody that doesn't understand his own danger, wasn't taught these things in life. Anytime he got into something, he kind of had somebody to pull him out of it. He's always rich. He had, he had his dad for back when he was younger. So what you need to realize is that he doesn't. And then we have examples of, and I called this out before, and I'm just going to call it out again. I know that people really fight me on this. They really don't believe it. He is an actor, and I'll admit he's gotten a lot better. He used to be pretty bad, but I'll admit he's gotten a lot better. I as a smart person, was able to deduce over the years of just following him and researching him, and other people have found this out too. He couldn't read, like he was illiterate. Like there was plenty of times where it was like a kind of like an obvious act, and he just got better at acting, where it was obvious that he couldn't read what somebody had given him. And we see evidence of this now. I was watching something where they were showing like a clip of, like, I think it was I don't want to say the person's name because he's just attacking people at this point, going after them, but it was an SNL cast member, and he was sitting there and he was confirming that Trump really just didn't know how to read his lines. Like, apparently he didn't know how to read. like in a literate sense. Like, I guess he could read basically, but like the whole point was that he was pretty illiterate. Was the idea? Was he's not, you know, and so and then we see an example of like somebody like a foreign, wasn't it a prime minister, handed him like a letter or something like that, and he was trying to he was gonna read it. He was supposed to read it, and he just like read it silently to himself supposedly, and it really didn't even look like he. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. So like there was like plenty of examples of times where you could deduce that he doesn't actually know anything, and he trusts the wrong person every time, and people take advantage. Like, so many of these disgusting people then made him look bad, and he didn't know what to do. He like told him something dumb, like that the Iran nuclear deal or something like that was actually a bad deal, even though he presented that same deal. Like, that was, after getting rid of it, then presented the same type of idea again. Well, but you just got rid of that, so if it was so bad, you get what I'm saying, and that's why that conflict actually is happening, or that wouldn't have been able to happen. So, anyway, and as somebody that is putting all this together and seeing all these patterns, I'll also sit here and admit to you that I don't know everything either. And that stuff that happens overseas and stuff like that, a lot of that stuff, it's actually not as complicated as you think. They are the propaganda and all that stuff over there overcomplicates it on purpose to confuse you. This is something that we do know. Usually with stuff like that, it's pretty simple. All right, take for example the Korean War. In North Korea, they are just generally lied to. They think that the reason that separation and all that happened was actually because, like, they're actually lied to and said that the U.S. somehow caused the Korea. No, the reason it's called the Korean War is because the Koreans caused the Korean War. It had nothing to do with us. And so, like, they just get them to hate us because we're the world power, and North Korea lies and manipulates their people into believing that North Korea is the military world power. And so, like, just all their people kind of, like, live in this 90s technology world where they're behind everybody else. Their cell phones are controlled and things like that. Like, and so this is what you need to realize is that is a lot of, I hate to say it, Middle Eastern culture. That is a lot of it. That's pretty much all of India. That's Russia. That's everything. That's that dictator, authoritarian, communist-like mindset where, it's everything would go to the person at the top or the few at the top, and nobody gets anything else. Like, the people don't get anything. And so the reason why they confuse like that all this is going on and all that propaganda exists is actually because, again, just like in this country when we see fake news and stuff like that come out, it's for the same reason. It's by the current government to continue lying to the people because, they don't want everybody to leave, or they don't want people to revolt, and they don't want to have a civil war. And, this is what Putin said. Putin has time and time again taken out his own competition. We do know those things. That's a fact. You can look that up. Time and time again, Vladimir Putin from Russia has assassinated people that were going to either testify or run against him in some manner that he was rigging the elections or just again to oppose him, and he had this person assassinated. So, who do you think is really behind the Trump assassinations? Who do we know likes to assassinate world leaders? Because again, even I don't like. Most people don't agree with assassinating a world leader. Like most don't. They really don't. Seriously, most do not. Most do not. They want them to answer for it. Like they want them to like be brought back and stuff. They don't want that. Yeah, truthfully. They want to make an example. They want evidence of them trying to exist after the fact. They don't believe in assassinations. Putin is somebody that apparently does. Now, who else do we know believes in assassinations other than Putin? Like this is kind of my point, is like most countries, most developed countries, and even North Korea, you could even say North Korea, a lot of what they do is literally just bark and no bite. Like a lot of the reason they have to do that is because people in their country are finding out, and so they have to look a certain way if they want to maintain their regime, and Kim Jong-un isn't going to just be carded in, and you get what I'm saying. So a lot of that is just to maintain face. So when we know this is the case, and you can just deduce that, you really can, because again, just we know that a lot of their technology is quite a bit behind us. They don't have the same military strength as a lot of people, and yet all these threats are being thrown around. Like we know the outcome. Oftentimes we can theorize the outcome, and like basically like the sort of thing where most world leaders have the intelligence at this point that if they started using nukes, it would be catastrophic to the planet, and it would probably end the existence of all human race. So like most of them, I think, have that intel, because like the Earth is in such a delicate state right now. Most of them are briefed, I think, on the fact that using a nuke in a modern, you know what I mean, would just have catastrophic effects. Using it in a test site is a little bit different, and they're also not using the really, really big ones. So consider that. Like it's just different. And like for example, if they would nuke something and accidentally, inadvertently cause an earthquake or something, like let's say a nuke actually would happen here. Not that we won't have missile systems and stuff for disarming that, but let's say it does. They could inadvertently cause an earthquake or a fault line or something like that and set off Mount St. Helens, which could, if it's a massive eruption, it would just cause a volcanic winter, what's known as a volcanic winter, and that would affect the entire planet. It would be like sort of like an ice age. It would just be a time of like ash-covered planet, basically. And so like there's all these outcomes of things that could happen that they're briefed on too, because they know these things. Like their top intelligent, educated people tell them the same thing that I'm saying right now. Because again, this stuff is just stuff I've learned watching really smart, intelligent people put this together too, and I've collaborated all the facts and analyzed them and pieced it all together. And you can do the same. But anyway, so that's the roundabout way of basically saying that's the reality is most people know if they use nukes, it's sort of the end of the world. So a lot of times that's bark and no bite. They want to test them in space though, and I don't necessarily agree with that. But if the hint of what we've been seeing with these, oh man, the UAPs. They're calling them UAPs now. If that really is extraterrestrial, I don't know. See, that's where I'll say even I don't know. I'd love to sit in a meeting and talk with people that are smart about that know about. You can theorize I mean, I can sit and theorize it, but I would want a scientist to confirm that I'm right with that. You get what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't have anything to back it. AI wouldn't be enough for me. I would want a scientist. So, my point is that, again, there's too many people now per capita, and I can get that pretty in depth. And I'm not even I'm not a professor. I'm not a scientist. And I've just learned all this on the internet. Okay, so what can an intelligent and educated person do with bad intentions in a foreign government that doesn't like us? That has seeding drone tech, guerrilla warfare tech, all kinds of stuff. And we already know that back in 99, a 15-year-old hacked the Pentagon. Yep, back in 99, a 15-year-old hacked the Pentagon, and he hacked NASA. So, when 15-year-olds are reading source code books hacking NASA and the Pentagon, that's pretty eye-opening. And I think that was partially why a lot of the pen testers, that community happened, is they all rationalized, look, yes, hackers usually are a lot of the time not necessarily what you want, ideally. However, just how you have bad guys that are hackers, you need to have good guys that are hackers. If that's the case, well, then you need those people. That is necessary. So that's why that needed to exist. Just like there needs to be a rise up of something else to task against guerrilla warfare tech. And usually that's the intelligence community, except because of the person listed in the parentheses right in front of you. We know that a lot of these intelligence agencies and stuff like that are being defunded, and all these funds are just being put into a more, just stuff that Trump thinks we need. And again, like, no, I don't think he's that smart of a person. I really don't. I really don't. There's nothing he has ever said or done that's made me believe that. So when he constantly makes mistakes, he constantly does things to harm us, but then says, well, let's do this thing, but then the thing that he wants to do is the thing that was in place before the harm happened. So the harm happened because he took the thing away, and now he wants to bring the thing back. Like that's a constant repetitive pattern with him. All that's happening is terrorists are using him. And I tried to warn against this. So, like, the Paramount merger, like, all this stuff that we blame Trump for, yes, it's Trump, yes. However, he's being manipulated. He's being shown things, and he gets pissed off. Like, this guy is so easy to manipulate. So if he would just stop, if he would just start being an adult for once and stop being angry at the next person that mentions the Epstein files, all he has to do is start being a president and moving forward. At any point, all that man has to do is prove that he's going to start working with the Democrats, being bipartisan, and working with everybody else to put the country back together. Then he screwed up. And instead of trying to just claim it's so great, making it great, even though he's not. So again, it's not a political agenda any longer, and that's why I really wanted to make this like sort of intelligence briefing. I don't believe that this is a political statement by any means. I think that it just is political by nature because I'm talking about Trump, of course, the president of the United States, except he's a king now. That goes out the window. There is no politics in there. Now he has removed that from the equation. You need to realize at what point you also do the same and you make it personal too. He has made it personal. He is that takes away your ability to say no to him if he has the power of a king. That's the point of us telling you that that's the power of a king. So again, that's not political. Don't make that political. That is absolutely just your need to survive. That's survival is what I'd call that. I'd call that survival. We know dictatorships and communism don't work. Russia is all but broke, and again, they were before the war too, which is why they were trying to steal Ukraine. Our intelligence knows that. You know, Putin destroyed his country, making every little bit of... He has the largest landmass of any country on the planet, and he destroyed that country, you know, with what he decided to do with his oil drilling and stuff like that, instead of branching out and booming culture like the rest of us did. It's that simple. He didn't embrace free thinking and culture. He literally... one of the best things for Russia... Do you know this? One of the best things... This actually did a cultural shift. One of the best things for Russia, believe it or not, and I hate to say this because I love the Mission Impossible movies, but one of the best things for Russia was when in Ghost Protocol, Ghost Protocol, when the Kremlin blew up. That, all of a sudden, Americans felt bad. I don't, like, it was the sort of thing where I can recognize it because, like, I even sort of have felt that way a little bit as I saw that. I was like, oh, man, that's the Kremlin. Like, we wouldn't do that, you know? Like, that just, like, you just felt it. You're just like, like, America wouldn't do that. Like, you just felt that. So we became sort of sentimental towards Russians. And all of a sudden, everything changed. They used this. And they didn't even... I don't even know that they necessarily knew why initially. But I think they figured it out through culture and the internet and stuff like that. So they started using this, you know, to try to either cancel certain types of culture, to boost Russian influence and stuff like that. Or, you know, like, you get the idea. How many bots do you see in a political stream that's about our government, talking about decisions we're making and stuff like that? Meanwhile, you see a ton of people spamming Russian flags and things like that. I see that all the time. And so you need to rationalize, like, they're there, you know, they're making a presence known, and there's evidence, we've had evidence of them interfering with social media, our elections through social media, taking out ads to influence people. So Russia does those things. Like, that's evidence. I'm not saying that just to say that for any type of agenda. I am saying that because that is a fact that we know. So, again, separate, you know, the want to be behind conservative values and stuff from what we're talking about with Trump. Again, that is not there's really nothing conservative about him. He doesn't. It's really about being super rich and not giving back. And yeah, like, I understand that there's a certain amount of conservativeness involved in like, you know, like, having wealth and maintaining a, you know, like a core family, you know, like model family and stuff like that. I get that, but how is that somehow not what the Democrats have also been trying to show you? And honestly, even some of the good independent people running and stuff usually seem just fine. Like, what's wrong with, like, Bernie Sanders is phenomenal. And Bernie Sanders is somebody that ran Democratic trying to show you that like, again, he doesn't really have, like, yeah, he is an independent, but he is willing to switch to Democrat just to show you that we do get along. It's the Republicans that aren't getting along. That's like, it's not politics anymore. It's just separating the folks who are trying to, brainwash you into creating a situation where you can't have politics. You can't even have politics. It won't be politics anymore, and you can't even discuss it like that. So recognize when, like, something like that is what's causing your free speech concerns and your concerns for democracy, where you have these rights, and then conveniently, you notice these problems where other people are having issues with what you're saying, even though you have the right to say that. Recognize where that person comes from and what person they usually represent and stuff like that. So put those patterns together and then recognize where the problem exists. Like, that's all a lot of us have done. We've put that together and recognized where the problems exist. Like, I actually, like, I've gone back and watched some of the old debates and stuff. And I watched a couple, I think it was Mitt Romney and, I'm trying to remember who, Obama maybe? And, like, obviously you guys know, like, who I like, but at least, like, it didn't seem just like Mitt was standing there the entire time making up a bunch of stuff that I couldn't prove or say was true, and then spend the whole time just insulting Democrats or just, there's no, like, it doesn't make any sense, not, like, basically spending the whole time showing that they don't have a plan, showing just complete lack of intelligence, at a time that they're supposed to. And so, like, recognize when that's not political any longer. Recognize when the rest of us are just being educated about this and piecing that together. And so, like, that's where I wanted to have you arrive at, is that a lot of what all of us are doing is, we're not trying to make anything political. We're really not. But there's too many other people that won't recognize a danger happening to them actually because of the political situation they're aligning with. And then maybe that danger is happening, to other people around them too because of that political situation. So anyway, let's get back to the exploding cars. Again, this could be anything as far, and that's why I didn't want to say too much at first when I started noticing these patterns. But now that it's like to the point where it's kind of obvious that this is a recurring pattern and it's getting worse, I felt like I needed to come on here and actually, it's just too much now. Like, now I know, and now enough people know, and they're just trying to figure this out. So I felt like it would be a complete disservice if I at least didn't get on here and give you any of that information at all. I at least wanted to get on here and share what I've been able to put together, of why I think all of that is happening. And not only that, but like, there's some other stuff going on too. Like, it's not going to stop with that. It's going to get way worse before anybody does anything about it, just as we've seen with plenty of other things. And so remember the stuff I've told you about the cell phones, where there's a constant connection even though I turn on airplane mode. I have gone in settings. Don't go thinking I haven't gone in the settings and tried to. No, I have. It is not working. That phone is absolutely, and now my bit rate is all of a sudden shifting around all over the place, like somebody's recording me, and that's okay. But again, like, I'm just pointing that out. That's all. that phone is connected constantly, regardless of anything that I do. I go in the settings, I turn it off, nothing. Not even just the button on the phone, I'm talking the settings, man. And aside from that, it's in a Faraday bag. Why is it still connected to my Wi-Fi in a Faraday bag? Why doesn't that break the Wi-Fi? How does that make any sense? My Wi-Fi? Huh? You see what I'm saying? I'm not gonna speculate what I think, because I feel like that might cause an issue. But let me just move on. This is a subject that this is a subject that's sort of kind of difficult to talk to people about that don't really know much about it, because you have to find terms to use that people understand. So like doctors have the same problem. Like they're supposed to be able to talk to you. They're actually taught to talk to you in layman's terms so they can break things down for your way to understand. A lot of times it's lost in translation and people still don't get it. So like I've been trying really hard to break down and get things into a level of understanding for people that don't necessarily have like understanding of electronics or technology and even more of a basic understanding oftentimes. Like oftentimes even way back, now I think people are getting it now, but I remember back even in 2010 talking to some people that they thought their monitor was their computer. Like they you go to fix their computer, and they're like they're like pointing to their monitor and talking about it as if it's their PC, and stuff like that. And you're looking at a tower over to the to the right, something like that. It's not like an all-in-one. You get what I'm saying? So it's people, and truthfully, like they didn't understand. They didn't even know like the term monitor. That's just a screen. So there are actually some people this uneducated about it, and they're not stupid. But to other people, oftentimes, if you then do something that harms or causes a problem that you've done repetitively, where you could have realized the pattern was your fault, that's where it's going to look like that. And that's why that happens. But it's still not your fault. But try to correct that, and become smarter with that thing. That's all. And that's my inspiration, my little motivational point is that I came on here, I honestly, truthfully, with the intention of trying to help streamers and trying to help people understand how to stream and use technology better. And because I did that, all the people that had any links to data, my data, and stuff like that, all that happened was they started using everything I was saying and putting trackers on stuff and things like that, because they were learning in reverse engineering, because they didn't have education. They're like in a country or something where like they don't have that. They can't even, their internet's restricted. Maybe their government restricts their internet because they don't want them to learn those types of things, stuff like that. And that's the point, is that is exactly what's happening. And I started picking up on that. So then that's probably why, like, I'm doing all of these reactions to K-pop videos, and they're seeing how good people in South Korea are doing. They're millionaires and stuff like that. And in North Korea, they're starting to finally see this. Maybe they're accidentally seeing like little things here and there, and then the government invades their little apartment and arrests them and takes them out just because they were watching a stream on YouTube. And you know, they start investigating this, and they attack YouTube, and they're harassing you. They're like yelling at them. They're like harassing them. They're hacking their network. They're causing all these malicious things to happen. And meanwhile, all just because I was sitting here, an American, reacting to K-pop videos. And again, the point was that it was just that they were finding out, and that government was attacking me and harassing me and anything I was trying to do, just because, again, a few people were finding out how successful South Koreans were. That's it. Yep. So because people may have been saved or may have been finding out because of this, they were trying to, you know, stop that from happening. And we're willing to sit here and be malicious to the entire platform and stuff. And other people do that too. It's not just North Korea. You know, like, there's no way it's just happening there. And that is not an example of a story where I just told you a story. That is an example of something that happened to somebody else. They know it happened. Like, there's proof of it. And so it's like, oh, well, okay, yeah, that's just, that's what's happening. So you just recognize, like that's all that's happening is, like, you know, they're figuring this stuff out. They're trying to get free. They're trying to escape something. And, you know, that's all I'm saying is it's guerrilla warfare. It's other countries with the motive to try to silence free speech. You know, we have free speech, freedom of the press, and they hate that. So, yes, it's happening a lot at Walmart because everybody goes to Walmart. That's why. They just know where you are. There's cameras. They can follow you there. It's well lit. It's always central. That's why Walmart has it where they have it. You know that? Yeah, so if you steal something, the police track you. At Walmart, here's what they do. They don't catch you stealing out the door. They let you. So to anybody that's running stealing scams from Walmart, stop right now. You're being tracked by the FBI and you're stupid. Stop right now. Because they wait. And they wait and they track it and they track it. They see who you work with. All they do is follow all that shit around. Because they got plenty of cameras at the lights. They got cameras at the thing. They follow you around. And then meanwhile, they let you do it a shitload. And then they just come and arrest you and charge you with a huge big fat thing. Letting you do it all this time. Now, I don't agree with that. I agree with stopping crime before it gets to a certain point. You know, where you're letting criminals further harm something, you know, or possibly cause danger to others. I actually just don't agree with that at all. I think that type of thinking needs to be an evolved thing. You know, like, we need to evolve into a new, intelligent way of doing that. I do understand why, though, because oftentimes what they do is they'll charge them, like, for a little bit, and then they get out and they do it again. So then again, address that correctional problem where the facility you're putting them isn't actually a correctional. They're not correcting behavior. There's nothing. You're just imprisoning. You're just enslaving. So again, like, that's the intelligent way of looking at that. That's a deduction And that's through my knowledge of, like, deducing and seeing that happen over, the course of my lifetime, where I just, people talked about this, I looked at enough cases, and it's like, yeah, that's pretty much what's happening. So again, that is an opinion, and that you can that is politics. That's an opinion. That's what we should be discussing. That's intelligence. Not two people in a debate where one guy insults all the Democrats and then the other one tries to talk about things they're going to do. But you think the winner was the person that was the loudest person shouting over the other one, insulting all of the other people, instead of the person with all the ideas. So again, Donald Trump should have been having some ideas to talk about too, except he never did. And he continues showing he doesn't, while he just undoes things to try to bring them back later, and it causes all this damage. So basically what he's trying to do is scam Obama's legacy into his own. Like, it's kind of obvious. He takes away something Obama did just to try to bring it back a few years later. That is a pattern that you can look up. It's not a fact. I'm not politicizing that. That's a fact. You can look that up. I'm not trying to be on Obama's side or anything like that. You guys know flat out I've called out Obama for certain things, and then even Obama said, yeah, that was probably one of my greatest regrets as president, or something like that. Like, he often feels the same. Like, this is the point. Most people that are trying to do their best will absolutely say, yeah, that's unfortunate that it happened that way, and this is why. And they'll even explain it. Even George Bush does that. There's been some things that he has. Trump doesn't have any explanation. That's not political anymore. That's just somebody doing a bunch of stuff. So, I feel like enough people have been fooled into, like, their attention span being less than even a few seconds, where, you feel so justified to make a post and look at other people's posts and stuff like that, but you can't, something happens in your life or something like that, you can't focus and enjoy that for the moment. You have to get on social media and talk about it and share it, and it's got to be a thing. You can't live in the moment, you can't enjoy it, and your attention span doesn't adapt, evolve, and you don't learn anything, you don't adapt to life, learn anything, or have new experiences. You just have social media events. Your entire life is just a social media event, and then everybody around the world, every scammer around the world looks at every single American as like a celebrity that they want to be like, so they harass that person. Like, that's all that's happening. Like, they're just looking at people like this and being jealous and being all upset and because they're in a situation. So they just look at it a certain way and then harass you. Like, all right, for example, like, why can they target old people so well? Well, for one thing, old people don't know a lot about computers and technology, and their brain is deteriorating, so, like, they would rely on younger people for knowledge on that. And secondly, well, unfortunately, a lot of that has to do with old people's data being tied to, like, certain records and, like, things like that. And especially IRS-related scams. Especially that. That is a big one. They have always used people's social security numbers. And social security numbers are, like, this is a common thing that people don't realize. I have found this to be true. Most people in the United States don't realize their social security number has been breached, and it's just literally on the internet somewhere. That's absolutely 100% true. It's probably most of us at this point. Police, federal investigators, politicians, maybe even Donald Trump himself. You think I'm making that up? That's a shame. Go look it up. And that's the problem. That is the problem. Now, next time you get a car, next time you have a thing, or you hang out with a bunch of friends, next time you go to college and you get an ID badge, don't let them post a picture with everybody in their ID badges standing there. That will get you doxxed. That college is absolutely, they should know. Don't let the car dealership stand there and force you to take a picture of the new car you bought. Don't do that. Because some car dealerships will just do that without telling you. Did you know that? And that can get you. And they'll be like, well, I'm just going to take a picture for our records, and then they'll post it and, like, tag you in it and stuff. Yeah. And so this may cause you to get inadvertently scammed. People think you got a lot of money, you just bought a car. Now they've linked you and somebody else to that car, whoever you're with or something like that. They have 3 people's data now. Not only the guy that posted it, but the 2 other people. Don't, again, don't, like you have like a big event or something like that, and you had a bunch of people and their faces are in the picture. Stop tagging people. Stop doing that. Stop sharing. Unfortunately, you can't do this anymore. Keep that shit private. You know, a lot of stuff should be, like, there should be a, like, basically the part of the problem is that Trump's not doing this. There needs to be like a data wipe or some sort of thing where everybody needs to start over. Like, they need to approach Facebook and come and order them to literally just immediately delete everything and force everybody to create new accounts, different emails, different passwords immediately. That should have happened years ago. And nobody at an intelligence agency is doing it. Nobody is saying, we have to square zero this. The thing at the end of Fight Club? Yes, but no. Like, don't destroy a bunch of things. You don't need to do that. Yes, that needs to happen, and I agree with it. But not that, you don't, no, not like that. That's just a movie. Credit. IRS debt and social media accounts. Everything needs a reset. Now, even just those 3 points of information could be massive improvement on protecting the national security threat to Americans. However, if you just let it continue to be connected, every picture, every tag, every little thing, yeah, it's gonna get worse. It will multiply exponentially. So an exponent is that thing, instead of multiplying it, it's that little thing above the number, sort of catty-cornered smaller. That's an exponent, and what that is, when I say exponentially, if instead of just like 2 times 2, now what I mean is if something escalates exponentially, what it does is it actually increases while accelerating. Does that make sense? So like there's an acceleration, and then that acceleration multiplies. So like it's already 2 times 2, right? It's already 2 times 2 equals 4, right? So then the exponent, you get what I'm saying. It just it does it another 2 times. So it increases with the increase. So that's called paying it backward. You remember pay it forward? We're paying it backward. So instead of 2 people helping 2 people that then help 2 people, and then those 2 people help 2 people, and it branches out exponentially, That's what exponentially means. You know, like you help two people, those two people now help two other people, and it creates a huge branch where it's exponentially getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Except that's backwards. It's scammers and they're winning. Where a scammer helps two other scammers, and then those two scammers help two other scammers. It's just bigger, 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 bigger. Now sometimes they're fighting amongst each other, but that doesn't matter. Like either way, there's still a collective use of data. You know, like the dark web. You know, all of these unencrypted networks where the government's restricting their people's data, all while exposing other countries. You get what I'm saying? Like, oftentimes doing that, or if they have people that are immigrants or something, they'll just use them. So anyway, I hope this has been informative. I just wanted to give you guys the absolute video, little, you know, podcast, I guess, if you will, of what I have noticed is going on, and why this is happening with so many cars, specifically at Walmart too. And I think you know, like, that's rational. Again, it's a lot. Again, it's the exposure. It's however many people are going there. Again, Walmart has so many people that go there. Everybody goes there. Cameras, data signals, cell towers, police vehicles, first responder vehicles. How many things are happening around that store where there's monitoring devices, there's cars, there's all kinds of stuff. And again, the thing I just explained with like cloud seeding and stuff like that, creating an environment where it's just suddenly really moist, and you're constantly doing this, like in areas around this, you create a really, really bad atmosphere, really bad environment for electronics. You're absolutely going to do that. You're absolutely going to create a very bad environment for electronics. And basically, like, when you have a power grid that's like a giant circuit board, that's what we're talking about. And you know, it's as simple as knowing that something's constantly on. So all they have to do is, if your power, and that's how the power lines work, and they know that, if it's constantly running, all they have to do is heat up those power, just heat them up, heat them up, heat them up, heat them up, get them moist, expose any little crack, crevice anywhere. There's a couple of times. So basically, in Pennsylvania, when they fix power lines, they don't fix them right. What they do is they'll put a little, they'll bolt one of the power lines to like a small piece of wood, and then run it through the other side, and then do the same. Like, they don't fix them. And how many times can I drive around just in where I am and see this example? I'll bet this happens all over. I'll bet they're doing this all over, and this is how they're just recognizing there's certain points where these people are doing stupid labor and not doing it right, and they're exposing that weakness. So that spot heats up, bam! Causes like an electrical fire, or it just goes boom or something like that, where you're using cloud seeding to essentially create an atmosphere for any bad like corrosion of wires or anything like that, to just cause that constant connection, because it's moist or whatever it is what's causing that spark, that water moisture catalyst, because water is absolutely a conductor. So as you guys know. So you know, it's about them creating that atmosphere and using that. So yeah, they're gonna start eventually, like I said, with the phones, they're having this constant connection so that basically eventually they can start crashing planes. So like, they're doing it with cars now. Remember, Al-Qaeda crashed some planes. Remember. And so like, the point is, they're disabling, they're making airplane mode not work. Airplane mode doesn't work anymore. I'll bet for you guys it doesn't work too. It literally does not work. I turn it on, it doesn't seem to do anything. This is what they've been doing for a lot of phones. They've been making airplane mode not work. I get a security update, it doesn't fix it. Literally doesn't fix anything. So basically, they're going to do this with the phones. They're going to do this with people's data eventually. And all they're going to do is they're going to use a concentrated signal to heat something up. Like a Bluetooth signal that runs on 5G, a 5G mobile data signal. They're sitting here, they're trying everything, and they're going to do it. And basically, that's the next step, is they're going to try to crash a whole shitload of planes all at once. They're going to try to hit that White House. They're going to try to hit the Pentagon. They are going to sit here and try very, very hard to crash as many planes as they can into the White House or the Pentagon, because those are the targets they missed last time. We saw that fifth plane. We saw the evidence of it not making its target, it not accomplishing its mission. Al-Qaeda is ever growing. We know this. If you see evidence of power lines starting to get melted, where like the power lines attached to the poles and stuff are starting to melt or explode, recognize that that is exactly what we're talking about here, and all of us are recognizing it and calling it out, and that is the same thing. Please, please, please don't excuse it, don't ignore it. That is what we're talking about here. Something mistakenly drawing too much power, so those power lines melt, heat up, and explode. That is arcing electricity. So please, please, please recognize that is not a normal thing. That does not happen. That should never happen. Do it right. Protect your data. And if you work at a mechanic at a repair shop, don't act like a dickhead. Because somebody's listening, and somebody's going to use that to make you look like you sabotaged a vehicle. Because I guarantee you that's all they're doing. They're trying to make that jerk that was a jerk to somebody one day at the garage make the person that think that that jerk sabotaged their vehicle. That's all they're trying to do. They're using the fact that you have some sort of altercation with maybe your mechanic or something like that. They were paying attention. They saw it. They heard. They saw you post. Yada yada yada. So now they know that you think this, and you think these things are happening. You think that there's somebody there sabotaging, and maybe they are. Maybe they're manipulating. Maybe they're working. Maybe they're a money mule. Who knows? But either way, even if they're not, the point is they know about it. So now you're just going to blame that person. That is exactly what you're going to... You're going to go right to that mechanic, that engineer, that repair person, and you're going to say, you did this wrong. And maybe you did. But that wasn't like... You get what I'm saying? It was still like a really weird, obscure problem that happened to a shitload of people, and now... You get what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't once. Except all these individual people, that's how they're going to treat it. Because they won't put that together. Same thing with the cell phone company. You're going to go to your cell phone company. You're going to blame them for the data dropping out. You're going to switch. They're going to gain access to T-Mobile. You're going to switch to T-Mobile. Then they're going to gain access to T-Mobile. Then they're going to do the same thing a few months later. They're going to gain access to all those towers. It's just because, again, the guy in the parentheses isn't listening to intelligence. He hires people that aren't intelligent, and it's not something that is, again, should be looked at as an opinion anymore. It's something that should be looked at as a fact now. These guys are sitting there in Congress, even bipartisan members of Congress, Republicans even, grilling them. Like sitting there, yeah, all right, we get it now. These guys, like, are you kidding? And this is the stuff I was sounding the alarm on long before this. where, you know, he had a hard time even getting people the first time that seemed credible. Like, you know, you get what I'm saying, but it wasn't too bad. And now, like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, you know, we didn't have some sort of bounce back. Like, it wasn't completely broken. Not quite yet. Now? Oh boy. And that's not a political statement, guys. I'm not trying to be political here. Just a lot of those guys flat out are showing us they don't. Again, they're being grilled by Congress members who know that they shouldn't be doing things that they're doing and why. And when asked about it, just often lie. Don't say it's a problem and make light of it or something like that. And then you get what I'm saying. Even like a pen tester or something like that, somebody an expert with that would argue that in court easily. Like they would get the expert and they'd be like, well, here's an expert that's saying that does matter on the most basic level. You get what I'm saying? So hire a pen tester instead. I think honestly, like a hacker or a pen tester or somebody should be operating as director of national security or something like that in a modern society. I really do. I think they would have every qualification as long as they were briefed on things and it was seemingly intelligent and educated about that subject. I really do. I think they could handle it way better than just a random Fox News anchor. And that's what we're talking about here. We're just talking about, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, just randomly hiring these people that don't have any experience. And then you see what happened to George Bush, too, where, like, again, like, a guy who I believed he had every intention to help the country. I really do, but was taken advantage of by people that didn't, with bad intentions. And I've often said that. I've often felt like his second time around, he tried a lot harder. He was a lot better at it. And you could arguably see the results of him recognizing Cheney and people like him weren't good for his image and did things to harm his administration. Excuse me. So, again, that's not a political stance. That's me analyzing the facts after the fact. That's not political anymore. That's just history and facts. What is presently happening, what's political, is when you have a good idea, two people have a good idea, and they debate on how to implicate it. Or whether it's a good or a bad idea. That's political. Not saying all Democrats are trash, or all Republicans are this, or just insulting people and stuff like that. What I am telling you, though, is that mindset actually is coming from most Republicans at this point. That is who's kind of acting like that. You know, a lot of times that is the Republican candidate that just sort of doesn't really have an idea and just starts, like, trashing Democrats, but then doesn't really have anything to say that the Democrat did wrong, because the point is you look up what they said, and it's not true. So, like, the people that align themselves, they're just choosing to believe it without understanding or knowing how to properly do that little bit of research. So they get to those people knowing that those people have some sort of data problem where like, they can't, like something's restricting their Google, or they can't look something up. It's so loaded with crap, they don't even get truthful news anymore. Where they can just sit there and deduce, oh my gosh, he just lied, you know, just stood there and lied, just made that up entirely. So, like, again, that's not a political thing. That's a fact. That would be, again, the politics would be like, if you're standing there and you're saying, well, I think, like, based on what's going on right now, you know, like, we need to give a 15% increase to the budget in the military in this department, because if we don't, this is going to happen. And then the Republican says, well, yeah, okay, you know, that's fine, but if we do that, what's going to happen is that 15% is going to do this. So if we take that 15% and subdivide it into 5% here, 5% here, 5% here, it might actually benefit more uniformly overall instead of 15% interjected in just this one spot. That's called politics. That's called two people now have a decent idea, except one sounds conservative and one sounds more democratic. Where the democratic opinion is put 15% all at once in this one thing. Or I'm sorry, other way around. Republican says put 15% all at once in this one thing. Democrat says, let's spread it out a little bit. That's a lot of money. Let's spread it out. Then we'll adjust if we need to. And so, like, that's great. I would love to hear that again. That's political. But this endless bickering, this endless politicizing of things that aren't actually politics. You know, like where it's just people arguing about things that aren't even fact. You gotta stop that, man. You just gotta stop. So there has been a lot to unpack here. There has been. But you know, again, we'll possibly have some other intelligence briefings for you. I don't know. We might have to get into this. We might have to deliver some other intelligence briefings kind of like this. But and some of these points may be like a point for like an entire briefing that we do or something like that. But I do feel that all of these points, added up, you'll start to follow the logic I have followed and why I feel the way I do about the current situation in this country and why I really think it's important for all of us to be on the same page too. You just see this stuff escalate. You just, just all these cars just bursting into flames in Walmart parking lot, one after another, after another, after another. And I made a big deal. Remember, I went on stream, talked about it, made a big deal about it, and then that proceeded to happen a lot. Where I didn't expect them to sit there, like, I didn't expect that, obviously. I just expected, to get trolled. I don't know, like, maybe, like, they would surface in some other way, or something like that, get mad. But, like, the point is, that's why I didn't talk about it. I didn't want to confirm it was working. I just wanted to say, well, this happened, and, the people that could aren't doing anything. And, essentially make them think. Yeah, I honestly thought, again, like they would just try to, like, make it, like, troll them or troll me or... But again, all you see is somebody sounds an alarm over something, and they just try to escalate and make... You get what I'm saying, and figure it out faster because I'm sitting here talking about it. So, I don't know what it's going to be. I really don't. I'm not a fortune teller. I can't sit here and say they're going to do it here next or something like that. But I will tell you that I mean, it's kind of obvious, man, when it's Walmart and the emergency lines go down and there's all, like, I can put that together too, so other people should be allowed to. So that's why I wanted to be able to, like, put this out there for anybody that might even be police or investigators or something like that, to give you a little bit of my logic and why I was thinking that and just feeling that way, so that you can also maybe follow that logic a little bit and use your expertise in your area. Because, that's the point. You're going to have some expertise in some things that you don't know, or I'm sorry, that that I don't know, and then you can use the information I'm giving you here that you didn't know and compare. And that's kind of what I've been trying to do, and I think that's what they know I've been trying to do. And I think I have given a lot of help to certain pen testers over the years, where, like, maybe I said something and they were like, just like a certain way, and it was like, that's a good point, or something like that, like they were noticing it too, and then now just I was another person also noticing this, and so they were like, that's a good point, and that was enough, you know, or something like that. I just feel like more people need to think like that, where that's enough, where a smart person recognizing the pattern is enough for you to recognize it too. That's all I'm saying. And then we can all start getting along. We can all start agreeing on this whole Trump thing. Like, again, I don't think the guy should be assassinated. You don't kill people. We don't do that. I don't think that. Not at all. But I do think that if he's going to do this thing and he's going to actually continue to be president for the rest of his term, which I don't necessarily think he is, if we're going to see that, we need to help this guy. You can't abandon him. You have to tell him what to do, and you have to tell him in a way that doesn't piss him off. Because he's a child. He's just gonna be really irritated at the way people are saying this stuff to him. That's all. So just try to listen to that, and try to realize if you're his advisor or something like that, and you want him to do something that's a little more intelligent or something like that, don't present it in such a way that's like, makes it seem for the other like it came from Democrats, or like it's because that's the point. He's really not gonna like it then. He will be so dismissive of that, just because it's and that's where you need to start recognizing just because a Democrat had an idea doesn't make it bad. Like you're just now that's completely devoid of logic. Like we've even talked about earlier how once he got rid of the Iran nuclear deal, he immediately realized what a good deal, so like I said, immediately acknowledging that was a good idea. You get what I'm saying? Like all these times he's done that. So that's where you just arrive at that conclusion yourself. Not politics, just okay. Politics is that, how to do it and not, not to do it. Just how should we further regulate and not how should we deregulate or just remove things. So you guys, I think that's where I wanted to stop. So thank you so much. Thank you again for your views and your support. Thank you so much, and stay safe out there. Stay vigilant. When you turn off your car, turn off your air conditioner. Just don't leave it on full blast the whole time you're driving. You don't need to do that. If you have like a leak or something like that, get that fixed. Don't go to a shoddy mechanic that sits there and does cheap work. There's, like that's the sort of thing where like you're gonna see that, and they're gonna utilize that. They're gonna use that to their advantage. That's what I'll say. Those are the tips. And also, don't put your entire life out there. You buy a car, you buy a phone, you have a party. Don't post it. Don't sit here and act like, even creators and stuff, like you just be careful. You make sure you're getting your aliases and stuff like that, and all you people that post and stuff, that's the way you want to do that, obviously. And if you're not, then don't do it. So thanks, guys. Thank you.